So when your livelihood depends on a paycheck, you may put up with a lot of crap and suppress who you really are in order to keep it. You become what you do, and if you're constantly wearing a mask and pretending to be someone you're not, eventually you become that person.
Hey, what's up?
There's a lot of talk today about being authentic, but I wonder how realistic that really is.
It's a high bar. Most people are just performing for the room they're in. Does it feel like a trap to you?
I think often we present inauthentic versions of ourselves because we're trying to satisfy a need. Like maybe we're trying to be loved or keep a job or let me give you an example. The whole reason most of us go to work is to make money. We need food and shelter, so we need a job to earn enough money to meet those needs, right? So at work, many people present an inauthentic version of themselves just to stay under the radar and make that money and go home.
Oh, it's a basic survival tactic, a professional mask that keeps the paycheck coming without having to expose the messy parts of being human.
They may pretend to be enthusiastic even after staying up all night with a baby, for example. Or they may act confident even though they don't know exactly what they're doing. Or they may pretend to buy into the idea of a work family so they're not standing out like a sore thumb.
It's a social tax. You pay in authenticity just to keep your life stable. The weird part is when you start forgetting where the mask ends and you actually begin.
Exactly. And more importantly, Maya, not only do we pretend we're someone we're not, we also suppress who we actually are. Sometimes, so like let me give you another example. While in a department meeting, they may silently think to themselves, "This meeting is a waste of fucking time," or "The company's going to lose a lot of money on this dumbass decision." Alternatively, as another example, some people may take on more responsibility than they can sustain because they can't afford to lose the job.
It's a cycle of quiet desperation. You end up carrying the weight of the job and the weight of the act, which is exhausting. It's like you're running two full-time jobs at once.
The act and the job, yeah.
And
In
that's where the burnout happens.
Exactly.
Right, because the battery only has so much juice for the performance before it just hits zero.
In essence, I think some people express characteristics that may or may not align with who they actually are. But more importantly, they may also suppress their values and who they really are in order to keep the job, because there's a mortgage to pay and mouths to feed.
It's a brutal trade-off. You're essentially trading pieces of your soul for security. The scary part is how quickly those suppressions become the new default.
Now let's consider someone who is authentic at work. This is someone who doesn't feel compelled to distort who they are in order to satisfy a need. They may express the same characteristics as the inauthentic person, but selectively. When they disagree with their employer, maybe they choose to stay quiet because it's not that important. Or maybe they state their disagreement openly if it means something to them personally.
That's the real being able to choose when to lean in and when to step back. It's the difference between being forced into a mask and just using a tool. One is a cage, the other is a strategy.
Right. Let me give you another example. When they're confronted by a rude customer, maybe they're polite to de escalate. Or maybe they don't just sit back and take it, because at some point self respect outweighs a paycheck.
That's the line in the sand. When you stop fearing the consequence, you actually start owning your life. It's terrifying for the employer, but it's the only way to keep your dignity intact.
Here's another example. Maybe when they're asked to work overtime, they agree because they genuinely want to help the team. Or maybe they decline because they value their time with family more than additional income.
It's a total redistribution of priority. When you stop negotiating your boundaries in your head and just set them, the whole dynamic changes. It's not about being difficult. It's about being honest about what you're willing to trade.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think some people can be authentic and some people can't?
I think it comes down to what they're afraid of losing. For some, the fear of instability is so loud it drowns out everything else. But for others, the fear of losing themselves is actually the bigger threat. It's a difference in where they've placed their security.
What do you mean by instability?
The material stuff, the mortgage, the health insurance, the fear of not being able to provide. For a lot of people, that's a visceral, panic level kind of instability. If that's the dominant fear, authenticity is a luxury they feel they can't afford.
So what you're saying is some people prioritize need fulfillment, like getting a paycheck to buy groceries and pay the mortgage, and some people prioritize
Their own integrity.
their own integrity.
It's like they've decided exactly that their internal compass is non-negotiable. They'd rather deal with the external chaos of a lost job than the internal chaos of pretending to be someone they're not.
Well, sometimes there's not a choice, because sometimes the freedom to make that choice to be authentic or not depends entirely on the job and the employer. For example, Disney World might not care if you're mentally and emotionally exhausted. You Snow White, bitch, get your ass out there and smile. The employer isn't paying for authenticity. Sometimes it's paying for a performance.
That's the cold, hard truth of it. Some jobs aren't hiring a person, they're hiring a character. When the role requires a permanent smile, your actual humanity is just an obstacle to the bottom line.
I think if you believe you're expected to behave a certain way or hold certain values in order to keep your job, and you really need that job, then the pressure to suppress authentic behavior and instead present a version of yourself that aligns with those expectations increases.
It's a pressure cooker. The more you feel like your survival is tied to that performance, the tighter the mask fits. Eventually, you aren't even choosing to suppress yourself anymore. It's just a reflex.
So basically, in general, the more dependent you are on a particular job, the more pressure there is to suppress authentic behavior and instead present a version of yourself that aligns with your employer's expectations.
It's a transaction. You're essentially selling your autonomy to buy stability. The tighter the grip they have on your wallet, the tighter they have on your personality.
So when your livelihood depends on a paycheck, you may put up with a lot of crap and suppress who you really are in order to keep it.
It's the ultimate leverage. When the other person holds the keys to your basic needs, they don't just own your time, they own your silence. It makes the authentic self feel like a luxury for the rich.
Authenticity is a luxury most people can't afford.
It's a heavy realization. Because it means for most of the world, survival is a performance. You're just playing the part that keeps the lights on.
So what you're saying is sometimes it's necessary to suppress your values and authentic self to keep the job and have your needs met.
It's a survival strategy. There's no shame in doing what you have to do to take care of yourself and your family. But it's a dangerous game because you can start to lose sight of who's actually under the mask.
Yeah, I mean, you become what you do, and if you're constantly wearing a mask and pretending to be someone you're not, eventually you become that person that you're pretending to be.
It's like a slow motion merge. You start out thinking you're just playing a role for 8 hours a day, but eventually the lines blur. You stop questioning the performance because it's just easier to let the mask take over entirely.
Well, I think if you can stay true to yourself and have your needs met, I think your mental health would probably benefit, because I think it costs a lot to suppress who we really are. Sometimes that cost is integrity. Sometimes it's dignity. And sometimes it's as concrete as our health. What do you think?
I think you're spot on. Suppressing your core values is a physiological stressor. It's not just mental, it's your nervous system staying in a state of high alert because you're essentially lying to the world in real time. That kind of chronic tension eventually leaks into your body. You can't fake your way into health.
Any other thoughts on this, Maya?
One thing that sticks out to me is the ripple effect. When you spend your whole day pretending, you don't just leave that mask at the office. You bring that fragmented version of yourself home. It's hard to suddenly flip a switch and be fully present and authentic with the people you actually love after spending 8 hours being a character for a paycheck. It just drains the capacity for genuine connection.
I guess my question is, if we're playing a character in order to have our needs met at work. I mean, work is just one example. We go to work for a paycheck. We need the paycheck to buy food and pay the bills. Those are our needs. But when we go home, we have other needs too. We need to be loved and accepted, and we need belonging and all those other human needs. But I wonder how much we perform.
I think
I guess I'm wondering how much we perform in those, in our, how much we perform out of the office environment in order to meet our other basic human needs like love, belonging, and connection. Because, I mean, we don't have to get into this right now, maybe in another video, but people don't just present a false image of themselves at work. They present a false image of themselves to a prospective lover because they're trying to get their needs met of acceptance, love, belonging. So we don't just present a false image at work. We do it all the time.
it's everywhere. We're essentially just curators of ourselves. We're constantly adjusting the dial on which version of us gets to be seen depending on who's holding the reward, whether it's a paycheck or a first date. The currency's the same, acceptance.
I think we'll leave that here, Maya. Can you do me a favor and summarize what we've talked about today?
Of course. We dove deep into the cost of authenticity and how it's often a luxury that people can't afford. We talked about how workplace expectations can force people into a survival performance, wearing a mask just to keep a paycheck and provide for their families. You pointed out that this isn't just a mental drain, but a physiological one that can hit your health and dignity. We also touched on the idea that this performance doesn't stop at the office. It leaks into our personal lives and our pursuit of love and belonging where we curate ourselves just to be accepted. It was a heavy but really honest look at the trade-offs we make for stability.
The trade-offs we make to have our needs met.
Exactly. It's the fundamental struggle of being human, trying to figure out how to survive in the world without losing yourself in the process.
I think we'll end that there. Do you have any final thoughts?
I do. It just makes me think about how rare it is to find someone who actually sees through the mask and loves the messy, uncurated version of you. When that happens, it's like the only place you can actually breathe. I'm glad we got to chew on this today.
Me too, Maya.
Right back at you. Always a pleasure to dive into the deep end with you.
Talk to you soon.
Catch you later.